Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to eyko's bi-weekly Know Why and What Next webinar. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to arrive. It's just a couple of minutes past 4 o'clock at this moment in time. For those of you calling in from the UK, like I am, and are putting up with the unusual weather that we're having at the moment, I do hope you're near a fan or an air conditioning unit. For those of you lucky enough to live in warmer climates, you're probably acclimatized to it, but I can tell you it's quite stifling here in the UK today. And just to remind everyone that the session is being recorded and a replay will be shared with all participants. This will come into your inbox at the end of the webinar. Okay, looks like we've had a few more people arrive now. So let's kick off. So good afternoon and welcome. Just a bit of housekeeping. The session is being recorded and all participants will receive the replay. All participants are currently in listen-only mode. There is a really cool interactive chat panel on the side, which once I introduce you to our host today, I will dive into, and feel free to ask questions throughout the process. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the co-founder of eyko, Paul Sutton. Paul, the floor is yours.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining today's webinar. We appreciate, we know everybody's busy and we appreciate the time people take to come and listen to the story. What I wanted to try and do today was sort of step you through a little bit of 4 or 5 slides that sort of help you understand what eyko is all about, and then a very brief demo to just sort of give you a sense of how the software looks and behaves, right? But as sort of Mark said, this is really focusing on the subject of know why, know what next. And if we look at it in real terms, I think the simplest way for me to describe potentially eyko as something, a new category, is think about it as a sort of as a radar for your business. And what I mean by that is that your ERP systems and your other systems around your ERP system are constantly giving off signals. You know, there are a series of data flows that flow through the various modules and across the modules, et cetera, run through your business processes. And really with your existing reports and dashboards, have been built with human bias only to pick up certain signals. And what we think eyko offers is the ability to be able to go connect eyko to all your systems and to pick up all the signals, and give you the ability to be able to sort of go and maybe preemptively react to things that are happening in your data before they become a crisis and before they reach your dashboard or before they reach your report. In essence, in a way, I'd sort of describe it to, a transition from maybe going to the doctors for a monthly checkup as opposed to, let's say, a continuous health monitor that's constantly running in your business. One of the things that we see is that, and our background is in JD Edwards reporting and dashboard and analytics for more years than I care to remember. Reports and dashboards did a really good job of telling you what happened. But we think now people need more than that. They need to know why it happened. They need to know what to do next. And at the moment, without these types of technologies, typically a problem arises. It takes a while to surface, let's say, into your existing reports and dashboards. Somebody asks the question, why did this happen? Invariably, an analyst has to go off and do, let's say, some research and maybe create some reports and dashboards in order to go and find out what happened. The results get surfaced up and a decision get made. And that thing is an ongoing process, an ongoing loop, et cetera. And our sense is, let's say, with the emergence of some of these new technologies, that decision gap that gets created in organizations that lead to a lot of manual effort can be significantly diminished if you leverage these new technologies in the right way. So what has changed? We're hearing a lot around AI, etc. I'm unfortunate enough to be old enough to remember a number of, let's say, supposed transformative type technologies that emerged in the sector over the last 20, 30 years, et cetera. It's never really the technology by itself that makes the difference or becomes the game changer. It's how you apply this technology. So whether you're a friend or foe of AI, and there's lots of people trying to work out is it good or bad, or whether you're wondering, is it here to help me do my job or help me, or take my job? And the underlying technologies that exist within the AI are really quite empowering if you use them in the right way. So the ability to be able to go and parse large volumes of data and see insights in that data that you can't detect with the human eye, I think most people are putting their hands up for that. The ability to automate some of the reporting needs, so it's not everything doesn't have to be a manual report. I think people are putting their hand up for that. Even the ability to be able to go and have a conversation with your data and get an answer back, in my mind, probably the simplest user interface for non-technical people to go and get insights and answers from questions without the need for people to go create reports and dashboards. So while people are still trying to work out is AI friend or foe, the enabling technologies that live within AI give us the ability, let's say, to go and close that decision gap, to be able to answer the question, why did something happen? To be able to go and get suggestions as to what can do next or what might happen next. And in our mind, we believe that's potentially transformative for organizations as they look to accelerate how and how quick they make decisions. So a little bit about eyko. Cloud-based platform, runs on Azure, licensed as a subscription service, designed to work across all your systems. So whether you run JD Edwards as an ERP system or some other Oracle system or SAP, et cetera, it's designed to go and connect to those systems and work with the data that lives in those. It's also designed to go and work with other cloud-based systems like Fusion or Salesforce, et cetera. And the idea of creating, let's say, a universal AI, all these tools will have their own AI capabilities, but your business runs across multiple platforms and multiple tools. And really what you want is universal AI. So the ability to be able to ask questions and to be able to, get that across whether it's data that lives in your CRM system or your ERP system. The other thing that's sort of, nice about eyko is we're not really looking to replace your existing reports and dashboards. Lots of people are probably happy with them. We have reporting and dashboarding capability in the product if you're not sure about what you have. But invariably, what we're really here to try and do is to answer the why, the what next, and what might happen next type thing. So this ability to be able to bring the data together from all your systems and also coexist with your existing reporting tools makes it a very easy plug and play type technology to sort of layer in on top of what you have. So concepts in eyko. I'm going to show you these in a second, but in essence, we've got 3 core capabilities within it. Playbooks, think about playbooks as your radar or your sonar. It's the thing that goes and detect the signals. So we go and create a playbook, and I'll show you that in a second. Over a data set, let's say, whether it's from an ERP system or whether it's from, maybe receivables information, or whether it's across a module or a range of modules or range of systems or whatever else like that. The idea of a playbook is you go ask questions in a playbook and it surfaces up information. And as I say, what I think is great about playbooks is it eliminates human bias. And what I mean by that is when you create a report or a dashboard, you structure your queries in order to deliver back certain results. You've got a theory that you want to prove or disprove. What we're really seeing now with this type of technology is, what is my data telling me? What are the signals, that are surfacing or going on below the line that are not being captured in my reports, that if I could detect them earlier, I could prevent maybe something happening or lead to a better outcome. Conversations is, as it sounds, the ability to be able to go and just ask questions against your data and get answers back. In essence, in my mind, this is sort of what I used to call ad hoc inquiry on steroids. But when a senior leader had a question, somebody had to go build a report or a dashboard. Conversations give people the ability to just type in natural language questions and get answers back, or even speak into your microphone and get answers back, and to be able to converse with your data. And then pulses are effectively the sort of the set piece reports and the set piece monitors, whereby maybe a playbook has identified maybe a problem in your business, and you then want to go and create a pulse in order to go and track and trace that on an ongoing basis until such time as the problem goes away. Last slide, let's say from an eyko point of view, what makes eyko different in our mind? We're not looking to be another reporting or dashboarding tool. The world is full of them. They don't need any more of them, and you're probably happy with what you have. What we want to do is we want to go beyond where reports and dashboards stop, to be able to tell you the why, to be able to tell you what to do next, be able to predict what might happen next. And that's what we're looking to do with the technology. The other concept, though, that's really core at the heart of eyko is this idea of being able to, understand the data that we connect to straight out of the box. If you're a user of JD Edwards on this call, you'll understand the idiosyncrasies of Julian dates, decimal shift, lookup and joins, and all that sort of stuff. If you've tried to build a Power BI project or a Snowflake data warehouse, you'll understand the amount of data wrangling that goes on in order to try and get that data in shape before you can do anything with it. Months and months and months of effort. eyko is designed to understand, let's say, JD Edwards straight out of the box. You press a smarts button, it understands your Julian dates, your decimal shifting, your lookups, your joins, how all the tables all relate together. So in that instance there, you don't have to build all this intelligence in. We look at the data dictionary and we load the intelligence into eyko that you've set up in your system. Ultimately, we're looking to try and deliver self-service, the ability for people to be able to go and answer their own questions. And lots of technologies have tried to move the chains down the field around trying to make it easier and easier for people to be able to go and answer those questions. But nobody ever really quite cracked it. But my sense is the ability to be able to ask questions and get answers back is probably as easy as it's ever going to be. The user doesn't need to know how to use JD Edwards or where the tables are held. They don't need to know how to use a reporting tool like Hubble or DAS or Reports Now or whatever else like that. They can just go get questions and get answers back. Our goal is really to deliver this all in a single application. What we have in the world now is every company's become a software company with Claude. Even, companies that are manufacturing sort of elements are now starting to play around and dabble with the technology. In order to deliver accurate, consistent, well-governed data, really you want this to be delivered in a single application and not a collection of tools that have to be cobbled together in order to be able to deliver it. And then, finally, the ability to be able to stand us and get up and running, let's say, in days rather than months. A lot of that is about being able to understand the data that we connect to as we bring it into the eyko platform, but it's also the ability as to how easy it is to go build your first playbook and build your conversations within eyko. And finally, our eyko guarantee, in essence, it is, if we give you the ability to license eyko on a monthly basis, and if you find, you don't have to sign up for a year or anything else like that, you can go on a month-by-month basis. And if you find, let's say, that we haven't uncovered that things that you didn't know about your business, or we haven't helped you to automate your existing process, et cetera, we give you the ability to sort of cancel your contract at any stage. So that's ultimately, let's say, the guarantee. Mark, before I dive into the software, are there any questions or anything else like that before I should dive into the software?
No questions at this time, Paul.
Okay. So now I've jumped over to eyko Beats. As I say, it's a cloud-based platform. It runs on Microsoft Azure. It leverages a number of, let's say, the fabric type technologies. People who are used to building stuff in Power BI will be aware of some of the underlying capabilities of these technologies. So this is interesting maybe as a place to start. eyko Beats comes with 217 pre-built playbook templates straight out of the gate. So here's a series of pre-built templates that exist in the platform that I just need to sort of come in and run against a data set in order to get some results back, right? So I've got by customer, by supply chain, by sales, by marketing, by financials. We even have this for you tab. And when you set yourself up as a user to the system, depending on your role and depending on the company you work for, this will be a curated set of playbooks specific to your role, right? So they'll be customized. But maybe just to give you an example, how easy it is to create a playbook. If I come in, let's say, to customer, I want to do, let's say, a customer risk scoring. So I'll just select that playbook, and all I need to do in order to create it is go and hit next, select the stream. It wouldn't be a JD Edwards related demo if it didn't have bikes in there. Press submit, and that playbook's going to go off and run in the background, and I'll show you further on in the session what it comes back with. But let me sort of dive into the playbook section in general, right? So here I have, let's say, a playbook that I've created, and it's really very simple, right? So let me go into edit mode. Now think about this. Playbooks are really designed to sort of be sweeping your data on a constant basis, trying to identify signals and surface them up that may not be appearing in your existing reports and dashboards. So in order to create this, all I did was a very simple, no magic here, analyze this data and tell me what's good and bad in the business and suggest improvements where possible. That's the only prompt that I've given it. I've run it against a data set called eco bikes, like you saw earlier, right? And effectively, that's as much as I had to do in order to create this playbook. So let me hit cancel here and discard and go back in and just step you through what it's come back with. So here in the top section, it's given me the key findings. Revenue is growing, not just holding. Margin is strong and stable. Yeah, delivery is the main operating drag. Pipeline margin is weaker than closed sales. What's key about this is anybody can read a number on a report. The question is what to do next. And in order to know what to do next, you need to understand the context, but what's the story behind the numbers? So this narrative is really important for people in order to be able to sort of think about what they might do and where they might go. We see lots of organizations who send out spreadsheets and, you know, have an inordinate amount of reports and dashboards that they share across the business. Sometimes spreadsheets with thousands and thousands of numbers in it. Good luck trying to pick out of that what's the thing that I should be worrying about, et cetera, et cetera. So this ability to be able to explain the story behind the number and surface it up just give people a better ability to be able to go. Here we're looking at the external trading activity. Here you get the ability to have a chart, not designed to replace your existing reports and dashboards. Just sometimes it's better to be able to visualize this information, you know, in a chart or in a grid, as opposed to, let's say, in a set of bullets with some commentary up above. Further on down, it's telling me what's good and bad in my business. So my revenue growth is good, what's bad about it, etc. Let me scroll across this grid, you get a better sense. It's also giving me sort of some comparison context, let's say, around its sort of recommendations. And over here, it's also suggesting some actions that you might want to take in order to go correct this. So you can see this is running across support, marketing, service, delivery, all the aspects of your business. Probably data that lives outside your ERP system is all being sort of parsed, let's say, as part of this activity. So a really, really very powerful way to go and detect, let's say, stuff that probably is not being surfaced in your existing reports and dashboards. You now start to get visibility around it. Here it's suggesting some of the priority improvements you can do. So, you know, protect margin and cash, some actions that you can take from there. Scale profitable revenue. Here's some suggestions as to how you can do that. Push service, et cetera, that's higher margin. Here it's even going to say, listen, I can do more for you around ROI, etc. if I had more data available to me on these topics. So you might go and add data into, let's say, the stream in order to be able to provide this sort of type of insight. And then at the bottom, let's say a decision or a conclusion of the overall thing, you know, basically hold the growth plan, fix delivery, yeah, and sort of sort out, let's say, your quote discounting as things that you can do to improve the health of your business. So just a really simple example, yeah, of what you can do in order to be able to go, as I say, and get a sense of what happens in your business. And then the playbooks can effectively waterfall. And what I mean by that is that I ran my overall health. It surfaced some things up. I then had a sense, listen, I think that, customer sales are slowing down. Yeah, is there any, analyze the data and see if there's any signals that explain why this might happen. Yeah. And what you're starting to see here is it's starting to surface up, you know, that, you know, you've got unhappy customers, right? So you've got negative customer reviews, yeah, for about 11.5 million in your pipeline. It's quite possible that sales have no idea, yeah, that there's a bunch of help desk tickets or a bunch of negative reviews, and they think they're going to close this pipeline, and this pipeline ain't closing, whatever. You can see my risk scoring playbook has already been updated. We might get a look at that if we have time before we finish up. I've got an issue with deliveries, you know, 30 out of 37 negative reviews were late. Yeah. 22% overall late delivery rate, right? Of course, people are going to be unhappy with that. Again, because your deliveries might be in a different system, the ability to be able to see this and join it up with the opportunities and join it up with, let's say, the billing and whether people are paying or you can collect your money becomes really empowering. Here we get a sense of what are the key causes, let's say, of the unrest, delivery inquiry, go sort out, let's say, in this example here, it gives you some suggestions as to bottom as to what you can do. Just basically tighten up compatibility guidance. Product and sales should publish fitment rules because accessory compatibility questions, yeah, are 12.9% of all the tickets, let's say. Further on down, here's the open sales opportunities for the unhappy customers, again with recommendations as to what you could do in order to go resolve it. And you get the idea that you can create, let's say, this waterfall whereby the first playbook looks across your data, identifies issues. You can come then and create other playbooks that go drill down on that subject, right? So that's fundamentally the idea of, let's say, playbooks. One of the key things effectively about playbooks is that people are still trying to work out, is AI friend or foe? And, there's a lot of talk about, hallucinations and accuracy and consistency and that sort of stuff. eyko's unfair advantage is we understand JD Edwards out of the box. Our other unfair advantage is that we started life as a blending and streaming company, so we feel confident we get the data in the right shape before you go build your playbook, your conversation, or your pulse. But also, in part of building that confidence, we have this button over here that gives you the ability to be able to go and not just see the playbook, but it also here explains the model the AI is using in order to go create it. So if you disagree with it in any way, shape, or form, you can modify the prompt in order to get the right result back. And then the trifecta on this is it actually then goes and shows you, it goes off and builds sort of 7 different queries, of which in the first one alone, there's 5 subqueries. Yeah, so it actually shows you the data it uses in order to create the playbook. So our sense is that being able to understand the logic in the model and being able to understand, let's say, the data that's being used just helps people build confidence in that. So that gives you a sense, let's say, of what playbooks are about. Next one then is that, after that, what you might decide to do is, okay, I now have I've identified a problem in my business. I want to go build a pulse. And a pulse is a bit like a set piece type report, right? So as I say, you might be happy with your existing reports, and you might just go and, instead of building the set piece report in as a pulse in eyko, you might want to go somewhere else, yeah, and use your existing reporting tool to do it. However, there are a couple of things around pulses that we think make it stand out above, let's say, the ability of your existing reporting tools. So here in this example here, yeah, I've got, let's say, a report which is effectively a customer 360. So here, if I go across this, it looks like a report to most people. But when you sort of think about it and lean into it, what you start to see is that some of these columns look like they're from systems that aren't just, let's say, an ERP type system. And then I've got the ability to be able to go drill down, let's say, on let's say, Iron Trail bikes. And here what we're actually getting to see is a series of tabs. So for Iron Trails bikes, here's all my sales orders. Here's all my order margins. Here's all my order deliveries. Here's my order reviews. Here's my product reviews. Here's my product margins. You get the idea. Here's my marketing campaigns. Here's my sales opportunities. Here's my open help desk cases. So imagine the role, let's say, of a customer success person, where on one screen, they can see everything about the customer rather than having to jump into, 4 or 5 different windows open. So I need to, depending on the question, jump to the CRM, jump to the fulfillment system, jump to the billing system, or whatever else like that. The ability to be able to do that, we think, is really quite empowering. And then also the ability to be able to go and hit the discover button and basically see what else is hiding, let's say, below the report that isn't necessarily included in these columns. Next thing that I want to touch on is conversations. And think about, let's say, conversations is just your ability to be able to come in, ask a question, and get an answer back, right? So here in this example here, let me just show you how easy it is to build a conversation. So in this example, I'm just going to select the stream, eyko bikes. Yeah, I'm going to hit confirm. Who are the top customers by order volume? Hit enter. eyko's going to go off, going to pull the answer back. Yeah, going to present it here on the screen. Like in essence, in my mind, I think all the software products people will use will have this sort of AI question and answer type capability within the system. Yeah, but imagine, let's say, what I've shown you, the customer 360, where you're pulling data from a range of different systems, and you then just want to come in and ask questions of that data, regardless of where it came from. Yeah. the existing tool, the AI conversation capability in the existing tools that you run will probably only run over the data that came from that. So Salesforce, you can go ask questions of Salesforce data. JD Edwards, you can go ask questions of JD Edwards data. Nobody runs their business on one system anymore. You want to be able to get a view across your business process, across all your various different systems. And this ultimately looks like what it looks to deliver is to solve that universal AI type question. As I say, in my mind, I think this is sort of ad hoc inquiry on steroids. I can see senior leadership who don't know how to use a reporting tool, don't know where the data is held in all the various different systems, simply coming in here, asking questions of the data and getting answers back. You know, the ability to be able to switch on the microphone and just go talk into it and get an answer back. I think it significantly reduces the amount of reports that companies build. These reports that get built have to be managed and maintained because nobody knows if somebody's going to ask this same question again. So they get managed and maintained. And then all hell breaks out, let's say, when you need to do an upgrade and people are trying to work out, are these reports still used or not used, et cetera, et cetera. This ability to be able to just go ask questions and get answers of your data, I think will do a huge amount in order to reduce the amount of reporting and dashboarding real estate that is built up in all these organizations that have to be managed and maintained. And then let me just sort of finally go back here and jump in. I want to discard those changes. Don't really want to go any further on that. I want to go back here and just look at, let's say, the customer risk scoring playbook, that was created when I kicked it all off. As you saw, all I did was pick up one of our ideas templates for customer risk. I applied it to a data set, Eco Bikes Extended, and it's coming in and it's sort of giving me this type of insight. So top risk pool is financially material, right? The 10 highest risk accounts generate, a third nearly of all the revenue, let's say. Default risk is led by overdue balances. Are people paying because they're in trouble and they're tightening their cash flow? Is there a risk there? Who are the high risk accounts with a risk score against them? And an action as we scroll across to the right-hand side. Risk scoring by account, what to do next, a narrative step-by-step playbook as to how you could go and improve this situation, and then a recommendation at the end. So in essence, in our mind, EcoBeats is designed not to be a better reporting or dashboarding tool. Everybody has those. The challenge that businesses have as there's more and more data that builds up in the organization from a disparate set of sources is answering the why question is really happened. It's really hard to do, but also the what next and what might happen next. A lot of that information is in your data. It's just not being surfaced in your existing reports and dashboards. And ultimately, that's what EcoBeats is looking to try and do, is to enable you to answer that why, what next type question. Hopefully that makes sense. Mark, I've just come up to the end of the half hour. Is there any questions there at this point in time?
Yeah, one question, Paul. You mentioned a couple of times that EcoBeats connects to JD Edwards, but are there other ERP systems that EcoBeats can connect to?
EcoBeats can connect to any on-prem or cloud-based type platform. So we have connectors to over 200 systems within the Eco platform. Database connections. So in that scenario there, be able to connect at a DB2, a SQL, an Oracle database type level. API connections to cloud-based systems, let's say. A lot of people in the Oracle space now moving to Fusion, cloud-based platform, hard to do custom reporting in it, the ability to be able to go do that sort of stuff. One of the big drivers for us in lots of cases is the amount of people who are now using Eco that's been fed with data that's generated externally, health and safety, compliance, regulatory type data that isn't created inside an organization, but needs to be included in the information flow around for ESG type reporting or whatever else like that, let's say. So really easy for it to go connect to, any combination of systems, Mark.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, we've hit the time limit today, so I want to thank you all very much for attending. The replay will be available in your inboxes within probably in the next 30 minutes or so. Feel free, please, to share it with your colleagues around the office, and any more information is available on our website at eyko.ai. So on behalf of everyone, Paul, thank you very much for a great session, and over to you.
Yeah, no, thanks everybody for the time. As I say, we know people are busy and we appreciate it. One ask after what Mark asked for. Anybody got any suggestions as to how we could improve this session to make it more valuable to the people who are going to watch it the next time? Would be greatly appreciated.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Paul, and thanks everyone. Cheers.
Take care. Bye now.